If you receive Social Security, a recent change could affect your next check. The government is bringing back a policy that allows them to take 100% of your benefits if they say you've been overpaid. That means your entire check could be withheld, leaving you with absolutely nothing on payday. But before you panic, I want to go over what's happening, who's affected, and most importantly, what you can do to protect yourself. Because here is the good news. There are ways to fight this, and I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do. So as we dive into these details, I want to hear from you. Do you think Social Security should be allowed to take 100% of someone's check to recover an overpayment, even if it wasn't their fault? Drop a quick yes or no in the comments to let me know what you think about this. Now, before we get into all the details of what's happening now with this policy change, I need to talk to you about how overpayments even happen, because this issue is far more common than you might think, and I know there's a lot of misunderstandings about this. So overpayments occur when the Social Security Administration accidentally sends out more benefits than someone is supposed to receive, often through no fault of their own. Sometimes it's because of outdated income records or miscalculations or long delays in processing changes, but a lot of times it's just technical issues in the Social Security system. And the worst part is that a lot of times they don't even catch these mistakes for months or even years. And then by the time they do, the amount that is owed can be absolutely overwhelming. The issue is that many beneficiaries have no idea that they were overpaid at all until they receive a letter out of the blue demanding repayment, often for thousands of dollars. A study by the Social Security Administration's Inspector General found that in 2022, the Social Security Administration could have avoided approximately 73,000 overpayments, totaling more than $368 million if they had better automated systems and tools. That's not anyone else's fault, and it's certainly not the fault of the people who rely on Social Security to get by, but the Social Security Administration expects them to pay up anyway. This isn't really fair, and for some, it is absolutely devastating. Take Lori Cochran, for example. She was blindsided by a letter demanding that she repay $27,000. That's a lot of money. Lori has been receiving Social Security since her 20s because of multiple sclerosis, a condition that makes it impossible for her to work. Her $914 a month check barely covers her rent, utilities, and daily necessities, but a small life insurance policy that her mother gave her pushed her over the strict asset limit, and because of that, Social Security said that she was overpaid for years, and suddenly they wanted all of that money back. Even though she appealed, if she loses, she'll have to pay back that full amount, which could take her 25 years at the 10% rate that they've been deducting from her check. If they took 100% of it, it would take almost 2.5 years to pay all of that back, and she would have absolutely nothing to live on in the meantime. Lori isn't alone in this either. Thousands of seniors and disabled Americans have been caught in this same trap. Some have received bills for tens of thousands of dollars, long after they've spent the money just trying to survive. That's why last year our government changed the rules so that only 10% of your payments could be taken to repay these bills. That way people still had something to live on while they were repaying that debt. But now, with the Social Security reinstating that 100% withholding policy, even more people could wake up to find their entire check gone, sometimes without warning if those letters don't arrive first. So here's what's happening, guys. Starting March 27th of 2025, the Social Security Administration will reinstate a policy that allows them to withhold 100% of that monthly benefit if they determine there was an overpayment. This is a huge reversal from that 10% cap that was put in place last year after massive public backlash. For many Social Security beneficiaries, this means their entire check could be wiped out and withheld until the overpayment is fully dealt with. The SSA claims that this policy change will save the agency $7 billion over the next decade, but it comes at a serious cost, especially for those who rely on these checks to afford food, rent, and medication, and for those who have no other source of income. So Here's the one small piece of good news. If you were overpaid before March 27th of 2025, nothing is going to change for you. Your withholding rate will stay at 10% and you don't have to do anything. The same applies to supplemental security income recipients, who will still have that withholding rate of 10%. However, if you're overpaid on or after March 27th, you're going to automatically have 100% of your check withheld until that overpayment is fully repaid. And here's something very concerning. It's not clear whether this rule applies only to overpayments that are paid out after March 27th, or if it's for overpayments that are discovered after March 27th, even if they happened years ago. That is a huge distinction, and it's a major detail that the SSA hasn't fully clarified yet, and that could have a huge impact. Now, obviously, if you receive one of these letters saying that you've been overpaid, it's going to be stressful. The good news is that you have options, and I want you guys to know about this. So you can appeal the decision if you believe there was a mistake. You can also request a waiver if the overpayment wasn't your fault and you can't afford to pay it back. There are some special forms that you'll need for this. Social Security Form SSA-561 is the request for reconsideration. This is what you're going to need if you do not agree that you have been overpaid or if you believe that the amount that they're saying you're overpaid was incorrect. This is the form that you need to appeal that decision completely. Now, if you don't want to fully repeal, but you also don't think you should have to repay it because it was not your fault and you can't afford it, you'll need Social Security Form SSA-632. This one is called Request for Waiver of Overpayment Recovery. Now, if you're willing to repay it, but you can't afford the 100% rate, you're going to need Form SSA-634. This one is called Request for Change in Overpayment Recovery Rate. This form lets you negotiate a lower rate so that you don't have to give up your entire check for this payment. No matter which form you fill out, it should be submitted to your local Social Security office. The Social Security Administration will stop recovering the overpayment until they make a decision on your request. That means that if you act fast enough, you may be able to pause the recovery process before it even begins, at least for the time that it takes for your case to be reviewed. Now, I know that it's not easy to get help from the Social Security Administration right now, and that's definitely a big concern. The agency is facing severe delays due to budget cuts, staff shortages, and outdated technology. But if you need to file an appeal, please do not wait. Do it immediately and be persistent, because getting through to SSA is becoming harder than ever. And I also just want to know here, have you ever successfully fought an overpayment notice from Social Security? If you have, would you please tell us what your experience was like in the comments? Your tips and personal experiences are priceless, and they may be able to help others who follow our channel that are facing the same struggle. So I would really appreciate that if you're willing to share. And remember, with all of these changes, I know it's so easy to feel frustrated and powerless, but there is something to remember. When enough people speak up, things can change. In fact, the repayment policy used to be 100% until enough public outcry pushed the government to drop it to 10% last year. So maybe if enough people speak up, we can create some change here. For me, it was encouraging to see that the Social Security Administration actually just reversed two major policy changes that had negatively impacted the people of Maine. These policies affected enumeration at birth, which helps parents get a Social Security number for their newborns, and the electronic death registry, which helps SSA update records when someone dies. The SSA acting commissioner admitted that these changes had caused undue hardship and reversed them. He even apologized, saying, and I quote, "As a leader, I will admit my mistakes and make them right," end quote. I hope that's true, because if it is, it means that our voices really do matter. The agency has shown that they can and will undo at least some harmful policy changes when the public holds them accountable. So I'm hopeful that if enough people push back on the return of this 100% withholding policy, that there's a chance that maybe they'll rethink it, because this is incredibly harmful. So if you think that this policy is unfair, please speak up. Contact your representatives, share your story, and let the Social Security Administration know that withholding someone's entire check is unacceptable. Make sure that your politicians and lawmakers understand the gravity of this. I don't think that most of them understand what it's like to live on a low income, and they may not realize just how catastrophic this kind of policy can be. So, what would you say to the lawmakers or the Social Security Administration if you had their full attention and could tell them how this policy affects real people? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And I honestly think that your insights could help others figure out what to say when they reach out to their representatives. So please drop those comments, and don't forget to check out our other videos for more ways to save money and get free stuff. I'll see you there.